Hey guys, this is Abhay Sharma. Welcome to another tutorial, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can export an Armory 3D game to Android. Actually, I tried to do that few days ago, actually last week, and I got stuck because there was a plugin mismatch in Android Studio. So I posted this video on my channel, and a guy, uh, Julian Castrillon, helped me to basically solve this issue, and suggested me to use the Gradle version 4.4 and in plugin 3.1.0. So I did that and it successfully compiled, but still there was some problem whenever I try to run it on either emulator or a physical phone. It was showing just a gray color. Doesn't matter what you do in your scene in the actual game, and it was actually displaying the color of the background, the environment. So I messaged Lubos Lenko on Twitter, who is the main programmer of Armory 3D, and he did some magic and he sent me a link uh, where it shows how to update the SDK. So if you have Armory recently installed, then I think it should be working, and if it's not, if it's older, then you should go into the preferences. Let's search for the Armory add-on, and if you open that, you will see there is a button called update SDK, and you have to do that. But before that you need to install Git, if you haven't installed it. So if you click on the install Git, it will take you to the GitHub page. Not the GitHub page, actually it's the installer. So just download your version of exe. I am on Windows, so I'm going to install it will install an exe file. So let me show you, it's on my desktop. So one thing you have to keep in mind, that when you are installing, there is a option, use git from the Windows command prompt, and just hit next, and it will install. I have already installed it, so I'm not going to install it again. And after that, just click on the update SDK and it will update your Armory 3D, and everything should be fine. So after doing that, we are ready to roll. Okay, now first we will set up a simple scene, a simple game. So I'm going to create a cube object, and let's switch to logic nodes, create a new node tree, and I'm going to name this to, let's say, box tree, something like that. And then select the cube, go to the object properties, and in the Armory traits I'm going to add a new trait. So click on this plus button, and there are you can use scripts or you can use nodes. In this case I'm going to use nodes, and you have to select which node tree I want to use it. So in this case this is a box tree, and I think and one thing more, you need to switch to Cycles render engine. If you are running on Windows, if you are running Blender 2.8, then you can also switch to EV render engine. It will work, but it won't work with Blender render. Okay, so now we have to save the scene, so I'm going to save it in my documents Armory folder. I'm gonna give it a name, so let's say game test 279, something like this. Alright, so we have a cube, and let's just go and run this to see everything is working. Right now it is so in the Armory player we have the option to run this game, and you can see currently it is set to Chrome. You can set this to C++ or a browser if you're using HTML5 or something like that. So just hit play and see if it compiles properly. So it's compiling. You can see the result in the system console if you want to, right? Okay, so our game is ready. So you can see it is just a gray background with a gray cube. And actually the problem was when I was running this on the emulator or my physical phone, it was just showing this gray color over the phone. So there's nothing else, there's no cube, there's no animation, there's nothing there, it's just gray color. So this color is basically the color of the background, the environment. So I'm just going to set this to something like white, and I'm going to set this cube's color also. So let's go to the materials and click on new, and let's change this color to let's set this to blue. Let me see, so something like this. Okay, now let's create some. So when you switch to logic node mode, you need to select the right tree. Okay, so there is nothing there. Okay, let's add a simple logic here. So I'm going to create a on mouse event, and it is set to down. So I'm just holding down the button, and the button I'm using is the left key. So let's go, and now we can create an action. So we can use a set scale exactly we used in the previous tutorial. So okay, now I can set what will happen if I press the left key. So I'm just going to give it a 1.2 scale. So just play it and see if this works. Okay, it's working. One thing I can do is I can use the same thing again. So I'm going to select both and shift D, and let's change this to right, and let's switch this back to 1. So when I left click, it will scale up. When I will right click, it will scale down. So okay, that's okay. So we have a simple game. It's not a game, but it's a simple scene. We just want to see this thing on my phone. Okay, so let's save this, and now we're going to switch this from Chrome to C++. And because there's only one way you can export your game, you can publish your game if you are if you're using the C++ player. So you have to compile it in C++ first. So what I'm going to do is before that, if you're using C++, make sure that you have installed proper uh, compilers of C++. In this case, I'm using Windows 10, and I have installed the Visual Studio 2017 community version. So it's working. But if you have watched my previous tutorial, you can see that I had encountered a problem because I wasn't able to compile that. So let me open the Blender. So if I hit play, it will compile, but at that time it wasn't compiling because it needed a specific version of Windows SDK, and you have to install it first. So I'm going to show you how you can do that. So to do that, you just go into the add remove programs, and just find Visual Studio installer and click on not uninstall, modify, hit yes. So this is for Windows. I don't know the exact process for other operating systems. And so here you can go into the more and click modify, and this will open up the a window where you can install individual components. You can add it or remove it. So you can see I am using desktop development with C++, and I'm going to go into the individual components, and here under the SDK libraries and framework, you need to install Windows 10, this specific version of SDK. So my system already had this uh, the latest version of SDK, but Blender Armory needed this one. So I have checked that and I click on the modify button, and it installed everything. So after doing that, now you can go and click on the play button, and it will start compiling, and you can see the process in the system console. It's gonna take some time, so you have to wait for a few minutes, so you can grab a coffee if you want. I'm not going to edit it because these things are very critical. Just see everything. I will actually speed it up. So we are doing this because um, Android export to Android is only possible currently with C++. Maybe in future you can export with the Chrome player as well, but I think it's under development, so we have to wait for that. So it's doing is generating CPP files. Okay, so it has compiled and it is going to run, but my antivirus is creating issues. I think it should work. Okay, now I have a C++ player. I can test that it's working. All right, so now we can go and do not close this console, otherwise it will close the Blender. So you can go and just toggle in system console and it will get rid of it. So now we are going to export this game into Android, and to do that we have to go into the Armory render path, and here you have to choose a preset, and you can export that without using a with this preset, I guess, but it would be uh, better if you use the mobile version. So there are so many settings you can set in here, and this is just a preset, so it's easier for mobile to handle these settings. But I don't know how much successful these settings are. You can test your own settings, but right now I'm just using the mobile one. So okay, so let's close that and go into the Armory exporter, and here I have to create a new exporter. So just click on this plus button, and by default it goes to HTML5, so I'm going to change this to Android here, and you can see the graphics API is set to auto, but I can use the OpenGL if I want to, because I don't think my phone is support my phone doesn't support Spoken, so I'm going to use OpenGL. And render path set to path, which is this. Okay, and it's set to mobile. All right, now we can go, let's save this first, and let's hit publish and toggle system console, and it's creating Android project files, and it has exported this game into Android. Now I'm just going to close this, so just go and quit, and let's open Android Studio. Okay, so now either you can start a new project files. I'm going to open an existing Android Studio project because we have already done that with Blender. So let's go where it is located. So it's in my documents folder uh, under Armory. What? Okay, build game test 279 and native build game test 279. Okay, and now it will start compiling. It will start doing its magic with gradle and stuff. Okay, sorry for the noise. So it's gonna take some time. So i'm not I won't stop it here. Let's just record everything. Okay, so it's done, and let's close this. And you can see we have a lot of errors. And the first thing you need to do, as Julian suggested, you should go into the project structure. So let me open that. What the hell is going on? Project structure, gradle. Okay, you need to select the gradle script and go into project structure, and in the project I'm going to change the gradle version to 4.4 and Android plugin version to 3.1.0 or greater than that. So I'm going to use 3.1.3, and it will recompile everything. So let it do its magic. And there is a problem, could not find so what you can do is just click on this Maven repository, add Google Maven repository and sync project. Just click on that and it would get rid of this error. I'm not an expert in Android Studio, as you can tell. I'm just trying. I was just experimenting with the Armory 3D to see how can I export my game, how can I export a game onto my phone, and that's all. And these are the issues I'm facing, and hopefully it will help. And if anybody is looking for this. So it has successfully did that, but there is a problem. Uh, so the specific Android SDK build tools version 25 is ignored as it is below the minimum supported version for Android Gradle plugin. Okay, so let's just go and update the build tools, and it will start doing. Okay, so it builds successfully, you can see that. And so which means that our game is now compiled into Android code, and we just have to run it. So I'm going to use the emulator so that you can see the result. So just hit hit this button, play, and it will initialize. Right now my phone is not connected, and I'm going to use the Nexus 5 API. uh, Okay, so now it's starting my emulator. Okay, so it's working, and now you can see my game. And if I left click, it should work. Right click doesn't work. I don't know. Maybe Android doesn't know how to interpret right click into its system, but it's working. So I'm going to stop that from here. Stopped. Okay, let's play it again. Okay, and there. So it's working. All right, so that's all I want to show you, how you can export your game into your phone from Armory 3D to Android. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.